straight into it.
Yeah. No,
No,
we're
no, I know.
good.
I'm just joking.
Brandon, you look great.
Thank you. Thank you. Both of you look awesome. Scott, you look like you just got back from Hawaii or something.
That's the goal. Just trying to look fresh, excited,
Mission
happy.
accomplished.
My little
Will,
sister's here and she keeps saying, like, so what's the deal with the Hawaiian shirts? And I'm like, bro, it's like summertime. Just relax.
I think
I'm
you
trying
should
to be different.
you should just keep it going. That should be your signature.
Yeah, all year round.
Yeah. Yeah.
can
Well,
you guys hear noise in my background?
no.
Okay, good. There's like some
Some light
really
screaming.
loud, like someone's pulling a cart or something, and it's crazy loud right outside my window. I think they're doing construction on an upper floor.
You go take care of it.
Yeah. Maybe you need to come help me take care of it.
I
Hey,
will.
congrats. Congratulations.
Thanks. I'm so excited to just be in the same place for more than a week. I like Bree. Like when you travel so much, you get really good at packing. Like your suitcase. Bree's gotten to the point where she's really good at it, and I don't think I like that because like it makes her easier to leave me at some point in the spur of the moment. Before I'd know it was happening because it would take her a while, but now she can.
Yeah, she's
probably
already
just
got
get
the
up and
bag of
go.
money prepared.
Yeah,
Now she's got the luggage.
She's got her go bag.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. I'm going to see if I can channel Zachary Oates. We're not waiting for Chad, right? He said
Good luck.
coming out.
I mean, he's going to be 7 to 9 minutes late anyway. So
Yeah. Okay. Welcome back to Cereal for Lunch, your midday dose of startup chaos, controversy, and candid conversation. I'm Brett, the SaaS whisperer Larson, and today I've rounded up two founders who've weathered more storms than a Florida hurricane season. Joining me are Brandon, booking boss Wright of Client Book, and Scott Snapshot Smith from Zyte.
yes.
Today's session kicks off with founder therapy, exploring what real leaders look like when deals fall apart or when viral scandals scorch reputations. Then we're diving into three sizzling news stories: the shocking cognition windsurf Google triangle, the fallout from Varun Mohan's controversial exit, and Andy Byron's viral leadership meltdown at Astronomer. So let's jump straight into founder therapy. All right, guys. So I think it's appropriate this week that we start out with modern leadership crisis, right? Today's founders are making headlines for better or worse. We've got Varun Mohan from Windsurf striking gold with Google while his team gets scooped up by Cognition, and Andy Byron from Astronomer, who turned a viral kiss cam moment into career suicide. Brandon, when does self-preservation cross the line into abandonment?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, what's the right answer here? I've heard some things about
the right ansser.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
pretty obvious, Brandon.
for sure. Yeah, don't cheat on your wife. Sorry, I was going down the windsurf
I went
path.
straight to keep going down windsurf. That one's probably more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Varun, and like, I've heard some things though where it does make me feel like he's maybe getting a little bit of a bad rap here, right? I mean, from what I've read, what I've heard, Google put enough money into the business that they could have distributed the money and closed the business, basically, right? Now, that would have left employees without a job at Google, right? Which is maybe what they were hoping for, or maybe they just don't want to go find another job. In the AI world, it seems like it may be a little bit easy to find a job, but maybe they just didn't want to do that work. But so I don't know that it was complete self-preservation and the rest of you are screwed, good luck. Like, supposedly the money that was left for them, for the employees, was more than enough to distribute out to investors and common shareholders and option pool holders, and they would have been okay.
I get the feeling that the story spun away. Like whenever I see these things and they're villainizing someone, I generally look for like the deeper thread. Like it's probably not what it totally appears to be on the surface.
Yeah. I mean, Gary Tan, right, from YC talked about it and kind of shared what he was hearing. And I mean, he was saying like every founding engineer, which there were over 40 of them, had cleared 7 figures with this deal. And then the remaining org was mostly sales and ops, which, traditionally aren't given a ton of equity anyways. Like their comp is really based off of cash that they're getting as they sell or as they hit certain milestones. So I don't think, I think Varun is probably getting a bad rap here. And also, when you think about it too, like as a founder, I feel like once you get into it, like, are you an IPO founder? Are you like, do you want to become a publicly traded company founder, like CEO, or are you not? And maybe Varun like got into this and he started building something really cool. And he's like, look, I'm not a publicly traded company founder. Like, what's the future of this business? I have to exit this somehow. And Google's like, well, here's the offer on the table because we don't want to go through all the regulatory hurdles, right? And the time that it's going to take. I mean, this thing happened really, really fast. Like one day they're talking about OpenAI buying them, and then apparently that deal falls through, and immediately Google comes with a deal that seems fair based on what I'm reading, and yet they don't have to go through all the regulation stuff, and they don't have to go through all the time that it takes to get through it all. And in the end, it was quick. Maybe that's what surprised people, but it didn't seem that unfair.
I feel like one of the things that really strikes me here is I I don't think I quite understand why they approached this company with this deal structure. And I think like one of the thoughts that I've seen shared a lot is that um, because of the regulatory environment and the like M&A approval process. So like Figma, for example, trying to get it acquired by Adobe, and then that gets shut down. And so companies are like, all right, let's just buy the technology. Let's like license the technology.
Scott, for the audience who's not aware, walk us through the deal structure of what occurred there.
With Windsurf.
Yeah.
Okay, I literally had to like write it down in summary form because like it was so complicated. So I'm just going to basically sort of like read through it. So OpenAI was set to acquire Windsurf for 3 billion, but the deal fell apart when Microsoft, which was OpenAI's key partner, refused to exclude Windsurf from its GitHub Copilot technology terms. And so like they had an expiry window, and then the deal basically fell apart. And then I'm actually curious how this part happened. Maybe there's just like a text to Google, but within a few hours of that collapse, Google DeepMind or Google came in with like a unusual deal structure. So they hired the Windsurf CEO, the co-founder Douglas Chen, and the R&D staff. So again, like Brandon talked about, no sales and marketing, which I actually think is a interesting point. Like Gary Tan maybe just hasn't worked with a lot of sales and marketing people, but like if it's just like, oh well, the engineers are great, of course we're going to acquire them. Screw the sales and marketing. I don't know. I feel like that's a weird thought, having been a sales and marketing guy that went through an acquisition and appreciated what my CEO did. Anyway, and then the company, I feel like it's almost like a corpse left in the street to an extent. But like the remaining Windsurf team had a new CEO, Jeff Wang. He was the former head of business. He stepped in to kind of stabilize thing along with their VP. They had like 250 employees left. Everyone was stunned. He said some people were in tears. And then Cognition Labs, which makes a coding agent, which our company actually uses, called Devin, bought the assets, the IP, the staff, the product ecosystem, all that stuff. And it was like 300 million in stock. So like at the top, it's like I think it was a $3 billion deal that turned into a $2.4 billion deal, which turned into a $300 million deal. So really interesting, I think, and super crazy to Brandon's point, like how fast it happened, how unusual it was.
Yeah, I mean, but like it wasn't like 2.4 and then, didn't happen, and then 300
Yeah,
did
right.
happen, right? Like Cognition is coming in, and now what they're buying are, common shareholders basically, right? They're and not even all the common shareholders, because Google basically bought the founders and the R&D team. And so like without knowing the cap table, you don't know how many of those sales and marketing people actually had equity, right? And so it would have been nice for them to have a place to land, which they did. Like they ended up having a place to land, which was Cognition. I don't know how much Varun was involved in that behind the scenes. You don't know. Like he can't talk about it. And so
you guys have both been through moments in your businesses where you've had to make hard decisions as a leader, which probably threatened trust within the team, or challenged the trust the team had with you? Like, how have you recovered from those things? Like, how do you protect culture? How have you, I have thoughts. I've done it. I've been through it as well, but I'm curious as to how you guys have addressed it.
I mean, I have a couple quick thoughts. Like, I think one of them is people, including myself, I think naturally go to this place of, yeah, but what happens to me? So like, let's say this hard thing happens. Let's say you do a budget sort of adjust, you address the budget with cuts, or you have to let go a co-founder or something like that. I think there's a lot of this like, oh yeah, but what does that mean for me? Am I going to have a job? What's that look like? I think a lot of the time you basically have to over communicate very clearly and very quickly to the team directly. So like anytime we've done this, it's make the changes, basically have a company all hands, talk to and address the problem, and explain what's going on, because otherwise it's just going to get out there. And then ideally you or the management team has their one-on-ones with their team and kind of address things. I think the second thing that we often see is that there's questions like, okay, what does that mean for the company, my equity, my stock, my compensation? So I think sometimes you actually have to like go back and say, hey, we're going to adjust your title or your compensation plan, your equity, those kinds of things. But I think a lot of it is just, here's what we're going to do, or here's what we did, here's why we did it, and then here's what the future looks like. And I still think people are unhappy and they are concerned and afraid.
So, yeah, one thing that I've learned through all of that too is like as a leader, when you're making these tough decisions, it's not like you go from 0 to 100 overnight. Like you're thinking about these things, you know, you're working through them in your head. You have the time to process these decisions and decide, is this truly the right decision for us to make? And then you make the decision. But when you're doing that, you're probably involving some people, some key leaders on your team or whomever into that thought process as you're going along the way. And so they're brought along, but most of your team's not brought along, right? For them, it's wow, this thing just happened. And so one of the things that I've learned through going through this is that's when their time to understand and digest and realize like why this needed to happen begins, where yours began months or years or whatever
Totally
it
right.
is, like before that. And so even though you may feel like, yes, I'm communicating this enough and cool, now for you, it's time to move on. Like I've been thinking about this for months. They're just starting thinking about it. And you have to then work through it with them for more time, like more months. And that was one of the big learnings for me going through that. And I remember thinking back, like it had been a month or two after we had made a big decision like that. I'm like, why haven't people moved on yet? Like, why, like we've been doing this for, a really long time and prepping for this. And it was a kind of eye-opening thing for me as a leader that it's like, no, that's when their timeline started, even though that may have been when your timeline maybe ended.
It's especially hard when your team is small. Like in the early days, I don't know, a mistake I made was treating, like, even as we went through a couple of rifts as we tried to figure out moving up market and like making sure that the fundamental expense profile of the business was appropriate. And one of the things that occurred to me throughout it is that like open, honest conversation after the fact. But it's so hard. And a mistake I made was referring to Evazet as a family instead of a team, right? Like when you, when you make it feel familial, you can't lay off family. You can not talk to them,
You could
but
want to, like a
you could,
brother-in-law or
for
something.
sure, for sure, for sure. But it's just instead of referring to like an elite sports team where sometimes you got to trade players, sometimes you got to switch out the starting line, sometimes, and it's especially hard when it's not a performance thing. When you go and you have to make a big change to secure the future of the company, I found that if at all possible, you cut once and you cut deep, like cut further than you think you need to, because the worst thing that can happen is multiple cuts over the course of months, because then people start walking around like The Walking Dead, like they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Um, the other thing I always try to do is, after we have to make those changes, is actually offer, if anyone's, give people 48 hours and offer them, an attractive parachute. Like, hey, if you're not, this is super hard. We're working to accomplish big things. If you're not up for it, you've come talk to me in the next 2 days, and here's the package, right? Like, and it's hard because you tend to try to get it down to the SEAL team. Um, there's really no easy way to do it. And I don't think, if you haven't done it, uh, it's almost impossible to understand the amount of angst and pressure we go through in that seat, leading, like, around it, right? Because good, good CEOs, good people don't take that lightly. They appreciate that people are relying on that for their livelihood. Uh,
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, my,
Just
my brother-in-law, he frequently talks about, I think there's like two parts of it. So I think there's one is, as a leader, CEO, whatever, you're always thinking about, like, are we going to make sure that we get to payroll? Are we going to make sure are we going to be able to take care of these people's families and all these kinds of things? I think it goes the other way too. It's like, from an ongoing basis, every month, every 2 weeks, quarter, whatever. And then there's also, like, when you make these changes, you're like, you just have to, like, take this deep breath. And I'm not looking for empathy to me as the CEO making this change. It's more just like the reality that you are impacting these families is quite difficult and challenging, but yet you still have to make that change, which it sucks for everybody.
And empathy is important, like you mentioned, Scott, right? But understanding that their incentives are different than yours and what they care about is different than you. Like, as a founder, I'm not like, I don't, I've never had this desire to just like go work for a good company and have a career and stay there my entire career and never change, right? But then you have employees where that is their goal. Like, that's what they want. Like, I know we've had employees in the past where literally interviewing for a new job is their worst nightmare. Like, that is the last thing they want to do. And it's because they want to come in and they want to work and they want to work hard, right? But like, it's just their incentives are different. What they care about is different. And how they think about their careers are different than founders and CEOs. So that empathy is important to have.
so what do you guys think, this, like, moving kind of back to the actual deal, what do you think this means? I mean, we're seeing a lot of really interesting deal structures. Meta's acquisition of Scale was a 49% in acquisition, right? There's a lot of things happening to circumvent regulatory stuff. Like, what do you think that means as we look to build? Like, Brandon, you made an interesting point. I'm a masochist in a totally different kind of way. Like, I love building early stage businesses. It's extremely painful. I love the challenge. The idea of being a public company CEO or taking a company public sounds horrible to me. I'd love to start a company that goes public. I do not want to be in the chair when that happens. And so, I usually build to exit, and I make that pretty clear to my teams. What does that mean for us? Like, as we look at the landscape and what's happening currently, do we think this is a long-term thing? Do we think it's
So I mean, the regulatory stuff I think is only part of it, right? Like, when we're talking about AI, things are moving so fast. Can you like think of a deal that's $2.5 billion and how long that would take to get done, right? Like, with the regulatory bodies as part of that, but even if they're going to approve it, and they're going to approve it, just how long it would take to get this whole acquisition done. Like, a deal like that would take a year. And by the time a year is up, I mean, AI has moved into something completely different by that point, right? So if you're Google, your incentive, I think, is partly, yes, like, I don't want to have to deal with the regulatory bodies in case they're going to nix this deal, right? Or if you're Meta, that's part of it. I think the other part is you can just move a whole lot faster and say, let's just get this deal done today. Like, and not have to go through all of the challenges that you would normally have to go through, diligence calls, all of that, to actually have like this business buy your business. So I actually think it's partly like the AI world. I think in most other areas that aren't moving quite as fast as AI, you're probably not going to see the same type of deal structure. So I do think it's partly that. And then from a regulation standpoint, I mean, that's part of it as well. But I think there's ways around the regulation that, companies can get around if they really, really want to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Brandon. So I always take notes like as I'm thinking about things, but my two notes are regulatory and speed. The regulatory one, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have seen the movie The Dark Knight, but the Joker is talking to Batman, and he says, "You change things forever. There's no going back. See, to them, you're just like a freak like me." And so I think about like these deals and how we've got scale, we've got windsurf, and everyone's like, "Oh, I can do it that way. Let's try it. Let's do something different. Let's be unique instead of let's acquire the team, let's acquire the technology, let's go through the regulatory hurdles, let's take care of them for a year, let's leave them alone for a year, and then let's like bring them in." Like I saw that when Parse was acquired by Facebook. It's like communicated to the team, "Oh, they're so kind. They bring us on. They leave us alone for a year, and then 2 years in, they shut down the business." But I think now we're at the speed stage. It's like we're just speed running. It's like Mario. Like you can go on YouTube and watch people try to beat Mario in half an hour. And I think we're kind of at that stage, both with the structure of the deals, but also like who they really want. I mean, Zuck is going out and he's just buying team members. Like he went to the OpenAI basically CTO and he said, "I will give you $1 billion a year, essentially," and tried to get him to come over. And the guy was like, "Nah, it's fine," which also is wild to me. Like I mean, the money, like that's just unbelievable. Obviously, he just probably doesn't care about it as much, but yeah.
So it brings up an interesting point. I was listening to another podcast this week, and they were talking about um, with one of the advice that one founder gave was like, "Hey, go read a business law book, because our
Thank you.
job is our job is actually it's the only textbook I read in college was my business
Hard
law
pass.
book." That tells you something about how interesting I actually am. Um, but because it learning the rules helps you understand which ones you can break, like which ones are actually rules, and which it's like what rules exist or frameworks that we believe today that can or should be broken, not just in like this business acquisition landscape, but as we look at go to market and product. And I mean, the really interesting thing for me about Windsurf and them not taking the go to market team is I think that's actually building operationally sound go to market motions is one of the defensible mechanisms you have today. Like I spent I spent a couple days this week and recreated a couple of tools using Windsurf actually as a non-engineer over a few nights, right? So the tech becomes less defensible. Now it's about data, brand, and go to market. So what frameworks and rules exist that we should be thinking through or we've taken for granted that we should be like, hey, how do I break that? Because I think that's what Google did here and Facebook or Meta. You instead of going and acquiring a company, you're just like, look, I'll buy 49% and I get the team and we'll figure out what else happens to the rest of the business.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting, to your point, Brett. I think it's interesting to also take this idea and and merge it with what we were talking about earlier, where it's like, as a leader, I want to do what's right for my team as well and the people that are with me. So in these situations, right, let's look at Windsurf, for example. He had an offer on the table that was good for him and his team and would have been an acquisition, and that fell through. The only other, I mean, maybe there's other offers on the table, right? But the next best offer from the outset. Now, you know, you could make the argument, and I think some people are making the argument that actually it was good for the team, like the money was there if they wanted it or whatever. But the only other offer is like, here's a great offer for me and a good, okay offer for my team, but that's all I've got. Or, I mean, what do you do as a leader in that situation? Do you say, nah, we're good? Like, would you turn that down? Like, I mean, you started a business, like you said, Brett, you started a business and ultimately your goal is to exit, right? Exit it at some point. It's like, well, here's your opportunity to exit it.
Yeah,
And they,
the other thing too is like, do we have any idea how much money they had left? I mean, they could have been on fumes, close to death. Like, I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's definitely a tough situation. It's interesting because you have this acquiring, in air quotes, company, Google or Meta in this case, and they're getting what they feel like they want. So, in to your point, Brett, about building, go to market strategy and strong operations, and that could be part of, like what makes you special. Maybe Google didn't like they looked at it and they're like, nah, it's really not that great compared to what we already have, right? Like they could have looked at that and they could say, we could make this really special if we put in our go to market, team. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know the right answer there, but there's definitely a lot to think about as a founder and what you're trying to do.
Yeah. Uh, okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. Andy Byron from Astronomer gets caught on a kiss cam with his HR head, which is a little ironic, right? Like your head of HR, okay, triggering a viral meltdown and exposing deeper toxic leadership issues. Brandon, how should founders handle personal scandals that risk company reputation?
Don't have a personal scandal, man. I mean, like I have
Easy for you to say.
I mean, I have very little empathy for this guy. Like he made a decision and now he's dealing with, the decision. Does it suck for his team? Maybe, but maybe not. Like maybe it's going to be better now without him, right? And you just I don't know, man. Like don't if you're gonna play with fire, you're gonna get burned.
So Scott, do you think Astronomer can bounce back from this, or is this like is the trust permanently scorched?
Well, I think there's a couple things that I saw over the last little while. I think first, I think the maybe one of the first CEO, maybe the founder CEO, something like that. I don't know, like a chairman of the board or something like that. Like I saw him retweeting something about this. And so, I think the current CEO, Andy Byron, I think he's like, second CEO. So I feel like if the company was performing well and it was after the founder CEO sort of left or, took a break, I'm confident that they can probably find a great CEO who is not doing doing this. And I think second, I think it's obviously like an interesting time. If you look at like Google Trends or like how often people are mentioning this company, I don't know. Is this a scenario where like all bad or all press is good press? Something like that. But I think ultimately he burned his reputation, and so he obviously can't continue to work there. And I'm pretty confident too that there's sort of usually people are aware, at least to some degree, about some of this kind of stuff, just sneaking around the business. And it's often representative of other choices or decisions these people make. So I bet the company, just like getting rid of a toxic employee, I think getting rid of a toxic executive, to Brandon's point, is just as helpful, just as important. And I think, yeah, absolutely. I feel like they should be able to, survive. It's just a matter of, can they find the right person who's willing to take the risk and go run the business?
I I heard someone somewhere say like all press is good press. I think for the business, right? This was a personal decision that this guy made. But how many of us knew about Astronomer before this happened?
Nope.
Yeah,
I
never,
had no
never heard
idea
of it.
who they were. That's not me uh, excusing the infidelity. Like that guy got what was coming to him. Um, but I didn't realize. I think they've raised like $1.3 billion. They're backed by Bain and J.P. Morgan and Salesforce Ventures. Like it's a they at least sold a legitimate. They've sold a legitimate story. There's like 41,000 GitHub stars and active users that use it. Data ops platform. Like it's a pretty interesting business that I don't think anyone had really heard of. And now, I mean, at least the tech community all knows about it. Um, how do you? I mean, this goes back to maybe it's a different type of cultural issue, but how do you You're stepping in as the CEO after this has happened. How do you recover? Like, what's the playbook? What do you do to re-engage the team? I do think it probably speaks to deeper cultural issues, right? It's hard to be running your personal life that way and not have it bleed into the way you show up in other places. How do you
I mean,
recover?
I would actually love to be the CEO right after this guy, right? I mean, just like when you remove a toxic employee, there's like this weight lifted off of everyone else's shoulders. And so if you have a toxic CEO, if like some of the rumors about what was happening already in the company, you know, like if those are true and you have this toxic CEO who's making these decisions and you remove that, that's a weight lifted off of everybody's shoulders and you're the next CEO and you step in, especially if the business is actually doing okay already. You don't have to change the direction of the business per se, right? Like you just step in and you're like, yeah, you guys are doing the right thing. Let's just keep shepherding it along
Yeah, fix the
and
culture.
yeah. And then, and the culture, you know, you don't have to like, I mean, I think you need to set some direction on the culture, like, you know, boundaries, what's right, what's wrong, what we, you know, what we're going to do going forward. But I feel like, you know, the people that were already uncomfortable with it and had this weight on their shoulders, yeah, that's an easy sell to them.
Yeah, I definitely agree, Brandon. I think the other thing that's potentially awesome for this new CEO is like, Charlie Munger, the partner of Warren Buffett, he always says the first rule of a happy life is low expectations. And when you think about like the CEO coming, like a new CEO coming into the situation, it's like, we don't know what's gonna happen. The new CEO is like, all right, well, I guess things are expected to go badly. So if I do okay, it's gonna be great. But I mean, I don't know. I would suspect that there's a lot of frustration, concern. Are we gonna die, etc. So like the new CEO comes in and it's like, hey, you guys are great. You're doing awesome. This product's sick. Like, let's just not do that stuff at Coldplay concerts anymore, and like we're good to go. And like it can only go up from there.
You're the low expectation thing. It's the reason I went to ASU because I feel like the bar was low and I could show up and actually look okay. So, Brandon, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, can we just all appreciate that, you know, everyone in America was unified on one
Yeah,
topic for once? Like,
infidelity is still not okay.
yeah.
I've been it's been curious to watch like the moral guidelines have go and it turns out infidelity is still not okay. Um,
I think one part of this though that really frustrates me is how many people are saying like, at least my husband doesn't love Coldplay, and I'm like, guys, Coldplay's amazing.
yeah.
Anyone who thinks that, dead to me. So
I also I was like, so let's shift gears again. What's the biggest learning you guys have had over the last week in and around your business? Like as you guys are working, growing, building, what's the big unlock you've seen? Maybe not the last week, over the last month. There's a lot changing. Things are going fast. What are the big ahas you've had in the last month or so?
I mean, one of the
my
ones for
you go
me,
ahead, Brandon.
you know, when it comes to SMB businesses and in the world of AI, um, I mean, to really win, you have to do it all for them. And um, like, you can't just anymore say, well, here's a tool that like does this sliver and you're expected to do everything else around it. Like, no, you have to be willing to take it all on and do it all for them. I mean, we've been running some, you know, a test where we basically are doing it for the retailers, like using our tool for them, and something that we can do a little bit better with AI, you know, better than we could have before, and in a more scalable manner. But yeah, I think for me, that's one of the big learnings. Like the smaller the business that you're selling to, the more you have to do because they just don't have the resources or the time to be able to do all the things and implement your tool and all of that. You basically have to do it all.
Yeah, for us, I think so. Let's see. Yesterday we started a two day hackathon for the business, And I think the main thing that we really focused on was, well, typically whenever we kind of present a hackathon, we have a couple of things. So we always try to like have some sort of fun incentive, nothing too crazy, but like, hey, the top three teams who build the coolest thing or the best idea or one that the management team is excited about, like we have some sort of incentive. But I wouldn't say that's a learning. It's more just like a process. But um, when we started our hackathon yesterday, we prefaced it with, hey, for 30 minutes before you get started, we're going to do like essentially like a vibe coding 101. So one of our product managers, our CTO, got on a call and invited anybody who wanted to join and just showed them the various tools kind of for like, from simple to complex. And so we went through things like Replit, Lovable, Claude on the high end, and also apps like Devin, and basically showed people that with a text box, you can type to build what you want and to do it pretty quickly and easily. Whereas, like, a year or two ago, these hackathons were salespeople hoping that they could find some time with an engineer so that the salesperson could be like, I can make a video and I can make a deck and you can build the thing. And now it's like, oh, the sales rep can sort of at least vibe code their way to something visual, something that sort of practically works. And what was really interesting to me yesterday, so I think like we as CEOs with specifically this AI stuff, I think we're all like optimists. We are drinking the Kool-Aid. There's a lot of hype. And if you look at like the outputs or outcomes of some of these AI processes or tools or whatever, sometimes they're actually not as good as we kind of claim they are. But my CTO, who he uses all the AI stuff, he is trying to encourage the team to use it. Yesterday, he was like, actually, I realized that this product was better than I expected. And as a result, he's more encouraging and pushing for that product to be implemented by the team. So I think for me, it's like sometimes you have to change your approach to get people to adopt something new rather than just like be the enthusiastic CEO. So I think like teaching them how to use it and walking them through, showing them examples, giving these little crumbs. We finally got to a point where we had more people on that call ready to learn. We had our CTO who's really excited about it and trying new tools and just kind of updated their brains. It's like a software update.
I think a big learning, a hypothesis I have. So as I'm watching this happen, I've been studying. Chief is at a different stage than Zeit or Client Book today, and I'm watching how quickly things are moving. And I look back to when SaaS first started becoming a thing, right? Like if you guys can remember, 2010, 2011, 2012, where it started becoming more accessible. It started out with a lot of point solutions. They were solutions that did one thing really, really well. I think we're going back through that today. And quickly, like, so enterprises, users, like if it was bottoms up adoption, users would find this tool that unlocked some benefit for them. And over time, companies would find that they had, 20 different tools across their hundreds of thousands of employees. And they started asking, they started looking more towards platforms. And I think this is going to happen faster. But like, if you look at it, like I've got 6 or 7 meeting attendants on my computer at this point, just testing them out, just trying to figure out what's going on. I've got 3 or 4 different LLM chatbots on my computer, like just testing them out, trying to figure out what does what better than the other. And the trade-off, at least in SaaS, has been I'm willing to live with a subpar overall experience to have it all combined in one place. Whereas I might be able to serve this one feature way, way better here, and this other feature way, way better over here. And I logged into HubSpot yesterday to try to find something, and it was horrible. Like and they're like arguably one of the leaders in how they're evolving. They're moving fast. It looks like they're providing value, but it's so complicated, And I think one of the beautiful things about AI is how simple it makes some of these things, because you can just get to an outcome or an answer. So that's a working hypothesis I have, is that how do you provide, like, we'll move from point solutions to platforms, but right now the name of the game, I think, where there's still some AI skepticism, is how do you lower the barriers to entry to prove value, and then get the user to upgrade. And it's almost like the bottoms up sales motion. And so I've been trying to solve in my head how you do those things concurrently. Build the platform, but drive adoption and utilization from the bottom up to provide like outsized value or utility. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean it's very much a PLG led motion, right? And in AI right now is that, um, and it's different than what a lot of SaaS is. I mean you have some SaaS that's PLG, and you have others that's very like sales driven, a direct sales motion. But AI, I don't know that we've seen a direct sales motion with that yet. But I do think that relationships still matter, and maybe even matter more now. That is something else I've noticed over the last month. Right? I mean, I've got salespeople traveling today, like trying to lock down deals, or we locked down our largest client recently, and it was all because someone on my team had a relationship over there, and we're getting into new places, like just even being able to talk to these people because of the relationships that they have. So I, the PLG motion really does matter for growth, but I don't think we're yet at a point where you completely remove the human element. And I don't know that we ever fully get there. I mean, I do feel like maybe there's some pushback on robots taking over everything. There's a little bit of pushback there, and we'll see how much pushback there will be and how long that lasts. But yeah, I think humans still matter at this point.
I think I'm going to use this opportunity to announce Zeit's new meeting recorder. I think,
Let's go.
I'm just joking. I think Brett, what's interesting too to me is like HubSpot, like you said, complicated. They're starting to do everything like Salesforce or these other products or these companies, but also like over the last, I don't know, 6 months, it seems like every company has released some new AI meeting recorder. And yeah, I do agree that it's nice to like have a core product that does all the things. But it also seems like someone somewhere, some PM decided we're just going to do like the Pareto, like I'm going to build, you know, 80% and that's it. That's good enough. And I think what I believe is still the case where you can build a great, excellent business that maybe it is not just sort of super horizontal, can do everything. And you have to be like really focused on at least initially on this niche, this specific area, and then grow from it. Um, but also, if you get big and you grow fast enough, you're going to have all the big guys coming after you. So in some ways, it feels like there's these table stakes features that you have to have as a platform, but also like none of them are differentiated. Like I look at the meeting recorders and they're roughly using the same prompts to summarize the same context, and I get roughly the same output. And I'm not like, it's more like, how do I get that into my CRM? How is it differentiated in the CRM? Like,
Well,
can I export it and look through it and search it in my ChatGPT or LLM?
that's where I think it becomes incredibly interesting, right? So, can you turn that context into the next step, right? Like, what is the action? What is the result? What's the needed utility because of that context? Because I mean, like OpenAI is releasing their own meeting recorder, and the Whisper API. I mean, I built a meeting recorder over the last 3 days. I'm not an engineer, and released it on my own computer. Um, in the evenings, right? It's but I feel like Thor, the god of thunder, like shipping code is pretty amazing. I didn't write any of it. I just asked ChatGPT to write it, and then I go back and I test it a lot. But it is, I do think the big unlock of the big aha for me over the last week is the playbook's fundamentally changing. Like it hit me really hard that I'm about to turn 40. Congratulations, by the way, Brandon. Um, because I was
Thanks a lot.
listening. I've
Thanks
been
for bringing
trying
it
to.
up, Brett.
Yeah, you're welcome. You look great. You don't look any older than 45, actually. Uh, I've been listening to a whole bunch of go-to-market content, and it became clear to me that I'm old because I was hearing the playbook around go-to-market and TikTok, and my thought was that's stupid. And then as I listened more, I'm like, well, it's working. Like that's how people are getting to market. Cluely, which frankly the product sucks. I like I don't know if you guys have used it. Another meeting recorder. It's really bad. Like it's not. It's annoying. It's in your face. It's not a great product. But that is that guy's go to market. He's paying influencers to create TikTok videos and just getting tons and tons of attention. Which the other thing to me is like you don't have to have a great product. You just need to get the right amount of attention. So if you need to cheat on your wife, if you need to pay a whole bunch of influencers, if you like whatever it is that you got to do to get out there, and get in front of the masses. There's just a few big unlocks for me over the last week.
Yeah, I do wonder if there's a marketing agency who was like, "Hey, we've heard that you're cheating on your wife. Is there any chance we
Could you go to
could
the
sort of
Coldplay
use
concert,
that?"
please?
Yeah.
He was going to quit anyway. He just did it he took one for the team.
Yeah.
Um, well, today we discussed leadership crisis, debated founder loyalties, and navigated viral scandals rocking the startup world. If you love today's spicy dish of startup drama, hit like, subscribe, and follow Cereal for Lunch, your part of your balanced startup diet.